Welcome to the Safety Pro Podcast, powered by iReportSource, helping you manage safety one episode at a time. With the constant regulatory and workplace culture challenges businesses face, we'll provide you with all the relevant information necessary to achieve a safer, more productive workplace. No management theories, platitudes, or guru speak, just actionable info you can use right away. Now here's your host, the Safety Pro himself, Blaine Hoffman.
Welcome back to another episode of the Safety Pro Podcast. Once again, I am podcasting live on location from the VPPPA National Safety Symposium in New Orleans. I'm having a great time with all of these VPP participants down here. VPPPA, this organization has been incredibly kind to the podcast, and I love talking with all the folks that are down here and hearing their stories. And I have somebody here with me right now, Mr. Kelly Pitts, who has a compelling story to tell as well. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Kelly, you were telling me before we started recording that you had a significant event happen to you, and you had some realizations as a result. And today you look at things differently, either at home or in the workplace. Let's take the listeners back to sort of the early days you were telling me about, and sort of what happened to you, and then how that changed your outlook and what our listeners can learn from that.
Okay, so I cut my teeth in the construction trades back in the early 90s, and at that time, safety was kind of a afterthought, I would say. I would say that it was more or less, about production and competing on a hard money job to keep your job, to go one to the next. So safety was never ever a concern. It was what you could do, how you could overcome obstacles to get the job done, and not really thinking about how you put yourself in harm's way. So on a project, I was making some position welds in the air off a lift, like a 19-foot lift, smaller one. And I finished my position weld, and I came back down to the ground to do a rollout. Well, I had my leads ran around the front of the lift, just to kind of keep them all kind of organized. So when I got off the back of the lift, I'm standing between the steps of the lift and a 2-inch steel shielding door. And I went and whipped my leads up to get them off of the front of the lift, and when I did that, it caught the joystick of the lift and actuated the lift and pinned me between that steel door and the stairs on the lift. And instantly I just froze up, almost like I was getting shocked from electricity. Like all I could do was pull harder against what I'd call the reins, which were my leads. So at that moment, I'm pinned against the wall and I can't breathe. I mean, I can't yell. I'm frozen in time. And fortunately, the partner that was fitting for me looked back and noticed that something was going on. He saw the wheels spinning on the ground, and I'm pinned against the wall.
It's still trying to move back.
Absolutely. It was crushing me.
Wow.
So, and then my partner ran over and drove the lift off of me. I collapsed. I had to take a ride into town in an ambulance. And fortunately, I had no broken bones, and I recovered from that. But what that did for me is it within an instant, it changed the way I viewed safety and my culture about safety, going from get the job done no matter what it takes, stand on this side of the rails of the lift, or, all the things that old school craftsmen do or did to try to get the job done. Yeah. And so although I was coming through the change of the safety culture at the time, I was having a difficult time adhering to the new changes that were coming my way.
Because you came up through that old culture.
Exactly.
It was sort of like, wait a minute, we have to do all this stuff differently?
Right. Yeah. It's almost like we didn't take it seriously, and we still felt like we had to get the job done, right?
Yeah. So, I'm hearing a couple of things just on a tactical level. We know now the standard allows, like for forklifts, allows you to leave it running as long as you're within 25 feet or still in view. That's not always a good idea.
No. No, and what came out of this is the company actually, the lift company actually realized that instead of being a dual actuated joystick, It's dual action if you're moving forward or raising the lift up, but coming down in the lift or backing up, it was a single actuated, because you could enable that joystick on the front with one motion and make it move.
So you could incidentally, like you did, have an object or a 2x4 fall, slide off a wall, hit that one switch, and it's rolling.
Absolutely. And I didn't have any major injuries, but there was a few deaths that came from this. And so there was actually procedural changes that stated when you get out of a lift or you get into position to work, you hit the stop switch, which that wasn't a procedural requirement on the job.
And there was a nickname for that switch.
Yeah, actually it was. On the job I'm on, they call it the pit switch because that's my last name. So
you're a legend.
I guess. I mean, I'm not really proud about it, but I mean,
well, you should be proud that you're able to. One, I'm glad to hear that you were okay, but you get to share this story with people.
Absolutely.
And people can learn from that. So we were also talking about some of the folks coming into this culture today, right?
Right.
And saying, we walk into this culture of safety culture, high safety excellence and things like that. And it's easy to forget where we've been.
Absolutely.
So what would be your message to either young safety professionals or just safety professionals that maybe they took a job and they're dealing with sort of the older, mentality? What would you say? What would be your message to them?
I would say that you don't need a life debilitating situation or a near death experience to adhere to a safety culture. Ultimately, it's in place to keep people safe, that they're able to go home to their family at the end of the night. And in reality, with the cost going up so much with the insurance and the liability end of that, production isn't number one anymore. And actually being safe, the one thing I tell people is at the end of your career, your name doesn't go up in neon lights. There's no accolades. What you get is your pension and to spend the rest of the time with your family. So put that in the forefront of your mind and adhere to a safety culture. Don't feel like you're being weak by doing so. Do it because you want to stay healthy and you want to be able to move around in your retirement and not be broken down, It's a
long game.
Absolutely.
You're playing the long game.
Yeah.
The shortcut you take today because you're looking a couple of days ahead in your work could end everything.
Absolutely. You might end up in a wheelchair, missing a leg, blinded,
or worse,
paralyzed from a fall or something of that nature. And so,
what a great message. I mean, we talk about this on the podcast a lot about, learning from the mistakes of others, learning from the tragedies others experience, because if we ignore that, we're doomed to repeat those same mistakes.
Absolutely.
So, Kelly, I'm glad you were able to swing by the podcast booth and share your story. Do you have anything else to add for the listeners? I mean, it's a compelling story. I love hearing folks that have gone through, I know it sounds weird, but have come out the other side, because I do believe this. I believe that, just because it didn't happen to us or somebody we know doesn't mean it still can't happen. We have to talk to people like you and hear these messages.
I'd say the one thing for me, what it's done and that it should do for other people, is the fact that safety doesn't stop when you walk off the job site after 8 hours. I mean, when you're cutting your lawn or you're going out to ride your motorcycle, I mean, be using situational awareness and looking for dangers in everyday life, and it doesn't only affect you, it affects your loved ones, your wife, your children, your parents, and don't be afraid to talk to the older guys that are struggling coming through that culture, trying to adhere to it, just to give them a helping hand and understanding that it's all about the end game, like he said. It's all about your golden years, so to say. And,
that's sound advice that I think we all can take to heart. So, Kelly, thanks again for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Safety Pro Podcast, powered by iReportSource, the all-in-one digital safety solution. For info on how you can request a free demo on all the capabilities of iReportSource to streamline your business's safety management system, head over to thesafetypropodcast.com. We look forward to helping you manage safety on the next episode of the Safety Pro Podcast.